I am still out here with the ESKY Mini ES2 750mm Brushless Sub-250g FPV trainer plane, and it's a really good beginner plane too. But the 3D mode on it is terrible in my opinion. The 6G mode is rock solid, but the 3D mode makes it erratic and unpredictable. So this is still the flight session where I've demonstrated that I've got all the electronics replaced in it. I've got a Radiolink BIMA gyro in it now. I've got one of my lightest weight batteries that I've flown it with, and this is a GNB 2S 450 milliamp hour 80C LiPo. It only weighs 28 grams, so I've got it pushed all the way forward to the nose. I would say that you actually need about 30 grams of battery weight pushed all the way to the nose to get a neutral CG on it. The stock battery weighs around 34 grams, so I actually have to move it back a little bit. But anyway, let's go ahead and get it in the air. I think I've got it trimmed out a little bit better now than I had. Okay, launching. And so I still have that bad ESC in it. So it's still, you know, it's cutting out on me from time to time. So I'm maintaining a little bit of altitude on it. Right now I've got it in fully stabilized mode. And it seems to have just as good slow flight capability now as it had stock, even though it's, well, with this battery in it, let me see, it's only 3 grams heavier, I think, than it was stock with my lightest weight battery. With the stock battery, it is 9 grams heavier, but it still has a phenomenal glide. It still has really good slow flight capability. And I have found that you can actually tip stall it if you get too slow and put in too much rudder. So I've toned my rudder down a little bit from where I had it, but you can actually tip stall it. It's kind of hard to do. You have to be going really slow, and you have to be inputting quite a bit of rudder, but you can actually stall it. Okay, so I get a little altitude here, and then switch it into wind mitigation mode, so we can do some stuff. Okay. That's a much tighter loop there. I didn't have much speed. But even with the stock motor and the stock prop, which is only a 4x1, a 4x1 two-blade prop, it's got so little drag on this plane that it can hold on to its momentum pretty well doing loops. That's not too bad. Since I've got this small battery in there with, you know, it doesn't have a very large gas tank, I got my timer set down for, well, that's pretty cool, isn't it? For that little motor, I think it's in the specs, it states that it's got 0.7 to 1 thrust to weight ratio. And I've got a pretty decent roll rate on it now too. I actually had to tone those down quite a bit, but I'm pretty happy with where it's at right now. You can do a hammerhead with it. I probably should have had a little more altitude there in case my ESC gave out on me. But no, you can do some pretty good aerobatics with it now. Pretty good roll rate both directions. They look pretty symmetrical to me. So I am pretty happy with this now. Now that I've got this BIMA gyro in it. Well, I'm happy with everything except for my ESC. And you never know, it just cuts out and then picks back up. And so But isn't that cool? After I flew this with the stock setup, I knew it had a fantastic, it was a fantastic airframe. And I like doing aerobatic, so that's what I wanted to do. Okay, so I'm going to put it back into gyro mode, stabilization mode. And let's gain some altitude, bring it through here, because I want you guys to see what a phenomenal glide this has now that I've got it fairly trimmed out. I'll get some altitude here. Alright, throttle is off. I'm just going to input a little bit of rudder to keep it going straight. But that just has a phenomenal glide, doesn't it? Look at that. I think that the glide with the Beam gyro, you know, I'm putting some left rudder in it just to turn it back this way. I think the Beam gyro is keeping this just as nice and straight and level as the, I'm still just gliding. I'm going to input some power here. Oop. I did an unintentional touch and go there. I waited a little bit too long to get back in the power, but I think this Beam gyro is keeping this thing level, wingtip to wingtip and nose tip wingtip to wingtip and nose to tail, just as well as the stock gyro was, because to me it looks like it might even have a little bit better glide to it than it had stock. Oh, my timer's already done. Okay. Alright, so let's see if we can bring it in. I'm going to bring it in from the opposite direction into the wind. But isn't that fantastic now that you can do some pretty good aerobatics with it in a manual mode with wind mitigation is fantastic. See if I can float it in here. It's pretty floaty. It's one of the things I really like about this plane, is that it's just so darn floaty. But man, is that fun, or is that fun? I am really glad that that I switched out the electronics, because it is a fantastic little airframe, and I'm just having a blast with it. I think when it was stock, I had about 20 flights on it, and by the time that I'm finished today, if the wind doesn't pick up too much and I can get through all my batteries, I will have 18 flights on this plane with the new electronics in it during this flight session. So it's absolutely fantastic. I think I've got links to everything in the show notes that I used for this, other than the 9-gram servo that I used, the Detrim. I don't even think you can get those anymore. It was an old 9-gram servo that I pulled out of something ages and ages and ages ago, but it's still working. So I used it, but I will have a link to a different 9-gram servo in there, and everything else that I've replaced in it so far. And then next time I bring it out, I'm going to test it with a different prop, one that's a little more aggressive. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.